70% of moms worked outside the home. So between 75 and 2000, 25-year span, one generation, you have basically a complete flip in the social norm. So if you were the kid whose mom worked a job when you were in the 70s, when I was a kid, you were the weird one, you were the exception. And by 2000, if you had a stay-at-home mom, you were weird, you were the exception. Enormous cultural change. And in fact, briefly during the so-called man session we've had, the recession that's disproportionately affected male economic sectors like construction, women outnumbered men for the first time in recorded labor history. Again, labor historian, correct me if I'm wrong. Briefly, I think in January of 2009, before they dipped slightly below men again. But it's the first time we ever had more women working than men. And we're basically at parity now. There's a small gap, and probably go up and down and cross over many times in the next few years. So those are the three trends I wanted to illuminate when I talk about now what the results are. Rising economic inequality to a level that France couldn't even imagine. Rising female labor force participation, again, at a level that's the same as some Northern European countries like Denmark or the Netherlands, but the rest of Europe hasn't approached. And I should also add that we don't have the kind of free child care and so forth that they do to support women working. And then lastly, the technological transformation of work that we've talked about through the information economy and mobile media, and the fact that you can do your work from anywhere these days. So for example, on my blog, you know how those people have on their bottom of their iPhone or their BlackBerry, apologies for terseness sent from my iPhone or whatever. I explicitly don't have that because I don't want anyone to know where I don't want them to know that I'm not changing my computer at my desk. I'm actually at the baseball game doing my work. So those three factors have created a perfect storm, I would argue, where economic and social life seems to be spinning out of control. So we resolved some of the mid-century tensions. For example, Protestant ethics says invest, save. The social ethic of the mid-20th century said consume. And this has been a tension rife ever since. Well, at least for a while, we redefined investment and consumption into what I call investment, where we refurbished our homes, or we renovated our bathrooms or our kitchens with new appliances, and we rationalized, even through United Credit, that was adding to the value of our home. Therefore, it wasn't actually consumption that we wanted. A new refrigerator, it was an investment, and so forth. And the lines between what is an investment and what is consumption have blurred. Work and leisure. Like I said, leisure was at its peak in the mid-20th century, and work was at its nadir, and then reversed. And now it's hard to distinguish what is work and what is leisure if you're in the knowledge economy. So, for example, if I called my father, I'm sure most people my age would say, you never called your parents at work. If they called your father to the phone or your mother to the phone, they'd say, what's wrong? Is your sister dead? What's the emergency? And then you would say, yeah, I sliced off her hand by accident, or something like that. Otherwise, they'd be pretty pissed off at you. There was a clear boundary between home and work. And when they came home, they probably weren't logging into anything to keep doing work after dinner. Today, folks are on their Facebook accounts. They can toggle over when their supervisor walks by so they don't see that screen. The idea of a boundary where you don't talk to somebody or take a personal call at work or is unheard of. People are texting in the middle of meetings and lectures and so forth. But the flip side is, of course, that you wake up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and you answer emails. Or you go on vacation, and you can't, even though you don't have to respond, you can't really resist responding to work emails. That's partly a good thing, that we all, more and more of us, are
in what Richard Florida would call the creative class, and we enjoy our work that feels meaningful to us. We found our vocation, and the economy has changed so that it's less drudge work for a greater and greater number of people. However, the flip side is that we're never away from the electronic leash, so to speak. And lastly, there's the combination, so I call that leisure, increasing the number of hours that we spend at leisure. So it's not even just that that we do work at home and we do home at work. It's actually sometimes the very nature of our activities have changed. So, for example, if you're updating your band's MySpace page at 3 a.m., is that your hobby? Is that leisure, or is that work? How many of you remember what a CAPTCHA is? Yeah, CAPTCHA is one of those words that is kind of all wavy at the end of a website that you have to enter to make sure that you're not an automated program trying to fish. Many of you might have noticed that lately you don't just type in one word, you type 2 words. Yeah. Does anyone know why that's the case, what you're doing there? Because this guy from Carnegie Mellon, computer scientist, invented this program where it's basically you're doing work for Google, whether you know it or not. Because Google is digitizing the entire world, the archives everywhere, and their optical recognition software comes across words that it can't classify, doesn't know. So they put those words into, one of those 2 words is really the test to see if you're a human, and the other one is you're doing a favor for Google. You're telling Google what that text says, and helping its algorithm in the future to be able to recognize it and translating that for its digitization project. So, little do you know, you should send a bill to Google. Another Google kind of insidious brilliance is, have anyone played the online ESP game? Maybe I think that hasn't caught on as much as the reCAPTCHA project. But the ESP game is that you log on, you're shown an image, and remember the $25,000 pyramid? Anyone who's old enough, where they give you clues and you have to guess what it is. So there you're given an image, you type in, well, what do you think it is an image of? You know, so you can see pyramid, Egypt, whatever, Sahara, whatever you type in as many, and someone somewhere else in the world, randomly selected in the internet, is also online in the same kind of $25,000 pyramid, 15-second countdown. And you get points every time you and that other person type the same thing. So if you type Egypt and they type Egypt, or you type pyramid and they type pyramid, you get points, and you're playing this game, right? You know what you're doing? You're doing work for Google again, because you are tagging photos for Google. They figure that if 2 randomly selected people think this is both a pyramid, that's a pretty good tag for that photo. So we're doing work all the time when we don't even know it sometimes. So the point is that we have to redefine what we think of as work and leisure. There is a new movement afoot that is a backlash against this kind of constantly connected lifestyle, this elsewhere ethic, I call it. The simple living movement. Some people just disconnect totally, move to rural Vermont, build a cabin with their own bare hands or whatever, and and dig a well and never communicate with anyone again. Some people become the Unabomber, whatever. But it's very hard to have. You can either completely disconnect or you're completely in it. It's very hard to have a balance in this new world and lifestyle. Anyone with kids knows how hard it is to regulate, for example, computer game usage, when kids also need computers to do their homework and so forth.